Hi everyone, my name is Yoni Fein. I am currently the youth director at the Riverdale Jewish Center. I've been employed there over the last 2.5 years. It's been really, really great so far. I'm here today to talk a little bit about some fundraising tips. Every society, every shul is different, every community is different, obviously. So I'm just going to talk about my own personal experiences, and hopefully we can gain from each other in terms of learning some fundraising tips to fuel some of the programs that we do. When I first got into the RJC, I noticed it's a very big job. A lot of people told me that youth directing was going to be just a Shabbos gig. You go there, you show up for groups, and that would be it. But it turns out, I'm pleasantly surprised that the youth director position has really turned into a real professional career. And it truly is a very important job, and it's a tremendous responsibility to make sure that we are servicing all the programs for the youth in our community and doing it responsibly. So when I saw and I came in, I was told, in terms of fundraising, how are you going to raise the funds to run certain programs? And immediately a story came to mind of my great-grandfather, Irving Bunim. My great-grandfather, Irving Bunim, once was going to a shul. He was an incredible public speaker. He fundraised for many organizations throughout his lifetime. And he got up in front of an entire shul, and he had them in the palm of his hand. He gave one of the most incredible speeches he's ever given. And he said that people were just almost in tears. And it was an appeal for a community program. And at the end of it, he looks at the rabbi and says, they're all yours, ready for a tremendous appeal. And the rabbi gets up there with his jacket and he says, okay, who would like to give us the first $5? And right then and there, my great-grandfather said, that was it, you lost them. Because unfortunately, even when you get people who want to give money and you say all the right things and you do all the right things, that last piece of actually asking them for money, particularly for a little bit larger sums of money that we might need, it really is uncomfortable and it's unnatural for many people. Our disposition is not to just go over to some random stranger we just met and say, hey, can you give me $500 for a program? For me, that was the most nerve-wracking experience of fundraising, to be able to call up people I have just met or haven't even met yet and to ask them for money for our programs. So it was then that I realized that probably the best thing I can do is focus inward. Instead of trying to get others to give, what can I do myself in terms of my programming that will make our youth department more self-sustainable? And instead of relying on other people's funds, we can create that from within. So I'd like to share with you today just a 5-step process that I sort of developed over the course of the 3 years at the RJC. And again, it might apply to many of you. Some of it might apply, and I hope it can benefit us all. So my first year as a youth director, RJC is an incredible shul, and the community is so warm and welcoming, and there's so many great people. But youth directing in general is a very tough position, especially if you're working during the week, possibly teaching or doing some other sort of job. It really takes a lot of time, a lot of energy dealing with children even on the weekends and holidays, and it can be a very demanding job. A lot of parents want what's best for their children, don't we all? And when they come to you with an idea of a program, you have to be wanting to help the community, but you also have to know your boundaries. I sort of didn't know that, and when I got right in, I tried to say yes to everyone, and I tried to conquer the world and run a million programs that I had in my mind of all the most amazing things that I can do for the community. And I slowly but surely realized that I wasn't really benefiting anyone by burning myself out too soon. So this 5-step process is a way to make youth directors happy. And that is actually the acronym. HAPPY is the acronym for the 5-step process that we're going to talk about today. So let's start with H. H stands for hold off. Now, I say hold off, like I just explained before, is when you come right in with all of your ideas and your envisions for how to run amazing programs to the community. Many times you'll succeed. However, you're going to burn yourself out. It really takes a lot of energy to run programs for the shul and for the kids. And if you just jump right into it, a lot of times the most amazing program might not succeed because you haven't taken the time to really see the community, observe what's going on, to understand who you're dealing with, what are their needs, what do they want, how much money is there for you to use, what are your resources. So the first thing to do is really breathe and hold off and realize you will be able to do this. You just have to take a step back first. The next step that I did was to analyze. When you come into the shul, hopefully you're lucky enough to have a previous youth director or a committee that might help you and give you some resources and some data and some files that have previously been done in the shul. I know that I was. And when you take the time to analyze what has been going on in the past, you can really see, well, what has been successful in the past? What programs are really great? What programs are very popular? You could also see what programs might be struggling, what programs might be failing. They're a nice idea, but are people coming? Are people interested? I can tell you when I first came into the shul, there was one particular program that I had growing up, so I completely understand why it was necessary. However, it was really taking a financial hit on the shul. We were paying a pretty big salary to run the program, and it wasn't drawing a lot of children to come on a weekly basis. And I looked and I said, that's something we can fix. And over time, with the right support, we were able to continue the program, but we cut the cost by 65%, which was a pretty big deal. I remember another program that is our most successful program, the Little League, Kosher Little League, KLL. It is a youth softball league that we run in the spring, and it services 4 different communities. We have close to 200 children who come every single spring. And we run that whole Little League for everyone, and it's very popular. Now, we generate revenue from that program, obviously, for further youth programs. However, what we've noticed is there are many ways to improve on that program as well. There are sponsorship opportunities for the T-shirts. There are ways that you can sponsor possibly a week of snacks for all the kids. You can sponsor, or in our case, we have a very generous donation as a grant to have the league dedicated and honor someone. There are many ways that you can take an already successful program and just find unique ways to improve it and generate more revenue through them. So in terms of analyzing, it's very, very important to keep a very tight sheet. Usually an Excel spreadsheet works best. That works best for me. And you keep track of every single program you've run throughout the year. You keep track of who comes, how many people come, how much you're charging, how much you're spending, and how much revenue you brought in. It's a very basic P&L form, profits and loss. And it really allows you to see how each program is doing. And again, not every program has to generate revenue or even cover costs, as long as it's a very popular program and the costs are not too great. Now, once you analyze and you have all that data and you see, okay, here's what I want to do, here's what has been successful, here's what hasn't, the next step is to plan. There's a line we say in Lichadodi, Sof Ma'aseh Machshava Tchila, that the action isn't really in the end, but Machshava, the thought, the planning has to come first. As youth directors, we're being pulled all the time to constantly do. I remember there was a fellow in our community who wanted to run a certain program, and it was a really great idea. I loved it. But unfortunately, it was brought up, I guess, a little bit too late in the process. We couldn't really get it done in time for the proper season. So I explained, maybe we're going to contact some organizations. We'll make this a really great program for next year. And they said, yeah, my child really wants it now. And we sort of ended it there. Over the year, I really planned, and we put it all together. And we got a very large organization to sponsor the entire thing, an incredible program. And in the end, it didn't really work. It didn't really work because we took too much time to plan. And in the end, we ended up not even doing the program altogether. So there really is a balance here. You want to get things done. You want to work, and you want to make these programs happen as soon as possible. But on the other hand, I've had the experiences where someone gave me an idea, and I'm like, wow, it's a great idea. Let's do it. And we jumped in way too soon, and it really was not successful. People didn't show up. We didn't have enough time to publicize the event. We didn't cover our costs at all, and we didn't do that program ever again. So once you analyze, you really have to sit down and put together a plan. What I like to do after my second year, what I've done is I took together all the programs that I've analyzed, what works, what doesn't work, and in the beginning of the year in August, I made a full year's calendar of the programs that we're going to run. Obviously, dates are flexible, and even times and locations are flexible. But having a year's plan of knowing where you're going to go, what programs you're going to do, and how much it's going to cost you can really help in the long run, because you have an idea of what programs you're running in each month, how much do you need to run those programs, and how it's going to affect your overall bottom line of your budget. So that's the planning. So we have holding off, analyzing, and then planning. The fourth step is, the second P, is PR. PR is crucial Crucial, crucial, crucial. When you run an event, you can plan it all you want. You can have the most amazing idea. But if it doesn't get out in time so that parents can see it, and it does not come in a way where parents are attracted to see and actually read the details, you're not going to get many people. I remember my first year, I would spend hours toiling over one flyer and making sure the boxes were perfect and the colors were perfect and everything looked great. And I was so excited to get it out there. And I remember one of my mentors at the shul said to me, you're really being inefficient. You're spending so much time on these flyers. No one reads them. No one looks at them. No one cares. They just want to know what it is, when it is, how much it costs. That's it. So I'm like, no, there's no way. They totally appreciate my colors and my attractive flyers. And I put it up there, and I started to slowly realize that he was right. No one read anything. I had people who would respond to my flyers in an email, and the flyer was attached to the body of the email, and it said, here's the show. It's at this time on this date. Here's how much it costs. Right below the flyer, I had at least 5 responses. When is the show? How much is it? How can I sign up? What date is it? And it was mind-boggling. But I was trying to see how I'm going to reply. Do I say, look at the flyer that I spent hours doing? And in the end, I just realized, in terms of PR, the earlier the better. Timing is really important. If you make a really nice flyer, but you get it out a week before, it doesn't give a lot of people time to plan and to schedule their day so they can come. So trying to get the information out as early as possible is very important. That also ties into having a year's calendar, because when you know what programs you're going to run for the year, you also have a better sense of when you need to start publicizing that information. But in terms of the flyers, they do need to be somewhat attractive. You don't need to spend hours on it, but you need to make sure the date, the time, the important pieces of information are highlighted or are big or really pop out at you when you're walking by and seeing it on the wall. And in terms of fundraising, there really are a lot of opportunities to do PR without ever having to call someone or to ask someone for money. One example that we've done is for all of our educational programs, our Saturday Night Learnings, our Shabbos afternoon missional learning programs, we offer up the opportunity very early on to say which weeks are available. And if you'd like to sponsor that learning in honor of a loved one, or in honor of a dedicated commemoration of a milestone in your life or in your children's lives, a birthday, perhaps, and people are really willing to sponsor when you open it up for that. Other ways in which you can fundraise through PR is by showing what other people are doing. You might want to say, so far we've gotten X amount of members or X amount of sponsorship for this program. We need $200 more to reach our goal. Please join us and contact this number. Any sponsorship amount is accepted. And I found that one time I was running a program and we needed about, I would say, $400, which is not a significantly large amount, but we've already asked a lot of the key sponsors we've asked in the past. I really ran out of ideas on who to call. And when you put it out there and saying all donations are accepted and welcome, you get $20, $25 donations, and those really add up. And on top of that, you're getting people who might not have the resources to give you so much money, but in the end, you're getting them involved, and you're getting them feeling like they're part of something. And that participation, that involvement is also a really important part of fundraising. It's not just about the money, but getting as many people involved as possible. And moving on, after we get to the PR, really we get to the crux of the fundraising aspect, which I believe is the why, which is you. It's you as a representative and an administrator of an entire youth department. Youth director, whether it's in the contract or not, a youth director has to manage his budget, and a youth director has to be the one responsible to say, here's how much we spent this year, and if we spent too much, it's really a problem. So the best thing that you can do is to realize that you are responsible for this. It is your prerogative to be able to go out and make sure that your programs can continue. It isn't about generating revenue. And it isn't now coming back with a lot of money to say, here, look how much I got. But it really is about funding future programs. I can't even tell you how many programs I wanted to do so badly. There was too much going on, or we just didn't feel like it was in the budget. And I'm sure with more money, there's a lot more that we can do. So it only helps the kids when you take that responsibility seriously, and you really take the time to fundraise for the youth department. Which also brings me to the next part of you, which is relationships. You need to develop those relationships with the community to ask for money. It is unnatural to call someone, absolutely. It is nerve-wracking at first, but when you come into a community and you invest in the relationships, you get to know their kids, you get to know their families, you speak to them outside the shul. You develop those relationships over time, and you'll be surprised how many times they'll come over to you and ask, how can I help you? I want to be supportive. I see you're working very hard. What can I do to help out? I want to be involved. And that's a very good opportunity for you then to respond and say, oh, there are many ways to get involved, both financial and physical work. And usually people will invest, or in this case, sponsor what you're doing, and not necessarily just to give money to the shul. So you really are the best advocate for the youth department in terms of being representative for what you're doing. Again, those are just my 5 steps to being a happy youth director. More money means that you're able to do more. It means that you have to deal with a little bit less stress in terms of trying to find ways to create programs and make them successful, which will make a happier youth director. And on top of that, in terms of contracts and in terms of really wanting to take this as a professional career, it's very difficult to do that when you're not able to bring in enough money to cover what you're doing. And a lot of times youth directors say, I'm working so hard, I'm working so many hours, and I'm not getting paid enough, or it's not something that's viable for me and my family to continue doing for a longer period of time. And the truth is that if you're able to fundraise properly and you're able to be successful in creating funds through your programming on your own, but then also reaching out to others once you've developed that relationship, and to be able to successfully generate revenue for your budget, that money goes back into the youth department. And sometimes that means going into a contract for someone who shows that he's able to create more and bring in more to do more for the community. So I'm looking forward to hearing feedback. I'm looking forward to having a discussion with other youth directors across the country to take care of this very important issue. And I thank you for your time. Best of luck.